welcome to our first episode called Artists with Jobs.
Hi, my name is Sebastian Deregibus. I'm originally from Argentina, but I've lived and worked in New York now for over 20 years. And I'm an artist, and I also have an art-related day job.
Cool. So where are you living, and what are the pros and cons of living there when it comes to making art?
Okay, I live in Brooklyn, New York, in a neighborhood called Greenpoint, which is in the northern part of Brooklyn, bordering Queens. It's very close to Manhattan, but it could also be very far away. I would say the pros of living in New York, of course, are being close to major art institutions, museums, universities, art schools, stores, small crafts, kind of like studios, other artists. All of that is continuous and constant stimulus and energy that you can feed from if you're into that. That's on the plus side. The drawbacks are the ones that people probably imagine. Number one, being way too expensive, and that's always a huge burden. It's just trying to make a living and to pay rent. And number two, lack of space, which is also tied to the cost of living here. And number three, it could be that it could be a little too much to take at times, like in terms of aggressiveness and traffic and people and hustle and bustle, constant. It's like you don't get a lot of downtime and peace and quiet. So off the top of my head, that's what I would say.
So what brought you to New York in the first place?
Art school. I went to the School of Visual Arts, SVA, and I studied cartooning. I wanted to be a comic book illustrator.
Was it specifically cartooning or illustration or?
No, at the time it was comic books. I wanted to be cartooning specifically.
So would that include like painting, or was that drawing only, or did they have like?
It was mostly drawing, storytelling, and the most I was interested in was inking, using Indian ink.
Oh,
and then
okay.
Coloring, but I didn't know how to do coloring. And then I think at the time, in the late 90s, they were already starting to introduce computers to do the coloring. But then, of course, what happened is once I arrived in New York and I started going to art school and got exposed to all these other techniques, other styles, other students, professors, it just blew my mind. And I just realized it was the broad palette and gamut that there was in terms of art and art making and how I didn't want to narrow or restrain myself with just comic books, So that kind of like changed the course, the trajectory of my art career.
Would you say that back then? Wait, how old were you, by the way, when you?
19.
You were 19. Okay. Did you speak English or some?
I did. I went to bilingual school. I did speak English, but it took me a while. The first year was tough. I had a solid, what I would like to say, a solid base, but I wasn't, especially verbally, orally, I wasn't quite as quick, and it took me a minute to catch up, and I had to really pay attention. And no, I wasn't the same. I was slower in the understanding, comprehending, and also like expressing my ideas. My vocabulary was smaller, so yeah, pronunciation, all those things. But I got through it. Yeah.
Wait, so
I had to. They actually sent me to a class to help me with my English.
So, like, just for fun, like, if you had to give yourself, say, a grade, like, A, B, C, What would you say?
A C.
So okay.
But
C
yeah,
plus, C minus, C in the middle.
C plus. Okay, C plus. But
Okay.
I got, in my defense, and this is probably, this is not something that's well known because not a lot of people do it. But if you go to a foreign country and
Hmm.
you're immersed in the culture and the language, which is not your own, you will pick it up. You will learn very, very quickly. It takes about 6 months to a year, but you can become fluent, and then it only gets better from there. So I
So
had a
what?
soft, I needed more practice.
So all of a sudden you started picking up the jokes, right? Like you started watching Seinfeld and you're like, oh, this makes sense.
Well, yes, that is something that I purposely did. I try to I try not to fall back on my Spanish because there were Spanish speaking people in the house where I was living.
Okay.
I could have tried to find Spanish speaking friends and people in New York because it's Nueva York. Everybody speaks Spanish here. But I
Uh-huh.
purposely do the radio or the TV and try not to and read in English all the time. So it's like that helped. All of that. Yeah.
Very cool. So you went to art school. Did you say where you went to art school?
The School of Visual Arts. Yes, I did. SVA.
SVA. Okay, so then you started to realize that there was illustration, cartooning, and at the time, had you been to any of the museums? Like, had you discovered, fine arts and painting and the old masters, or were you still mostly focused on cartooning and comic books?
I was aware of the old masters. I had visited the museums, both back at home in Buenos Aires and in New York, because I arrived several months prior to the beginning of classes in September. So I had been to the Met, the MoMA, and everything else. Um, that was certainly impressive, but the thing that blew my mind, the thing that really changed my trajectory was walking into Stephen Assell's class and seeing people work with oil paint,
Mm.
alla prima, from the model. I had never witnessed that, had never seen that, and that really blew my mind, and it changed everything.
Oh, very cool. Um, cool. So, you were pursuing a degree, correct?
Yes,
And then did you obtain your degree? Did you graduate?
yes, I did.
A- And you came to New York by yourself, correct?
Yes,
What was that like? Was that scary?
that was fucking scary. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
I had been to New York before with my dad, but traveling alone,
Okay.
that's it. There's nobody else there with you. Nobody to fall back. Um, and luckily, I had the phone number of a friend, somebody who had spent some time studying abroad in Argentina, and I called them out of the blue, and they say, "Yeah, man, come on over." And then I befriended them, and then ended up living with them for this couple in Brooklyn for a few weeks, and then through them, I found a room to rent, and then I lived with that family for 4 years almost, I think. Yeah.
Wow. Very cool.
Uh, I knew how to travel by myself, but to do a big international travel like that into a foreign city by myself, that was the first. And yeah, it was very intimidating. Yeah.
But you grew up in Buenos Aires, which is a big city as well.
Yes. Yes.
So you
Yeah. In
were
that sense, it's similar. Yeah. Yeah.
so you were definitely better prepared than say somebody like myself.
Maybe it could be. Yeah. I guess I was used to the speed of things. I was used to the aggressiveness, the hustle and bustle, the taking trains or subways, navigating, figuring out how to get from point A to point B, all those things.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's a savvy guy. Um okay.
I guess so. I don't know.
Okay. So then where did you go to school after that? Did you take time
Oh,
off?
you mean after yeah, I took time off. My dad advised me, and I think he was right to do so, not to go straight into grad school, just to
Okay.
go out there and work and get a feel for what it's like to be out. You know, mind you, I had been working throughout my undergrad all those years.
Oh,
It's not
you
like
had.
I wasn't. Yeah,
What were some of your jobs?
I was a bus boy for a
Okay.
while. Then what else did I do? Then I worked at a retail store in Chelsea that sold like gift baskets. Then I worked for a place that did ornamental like Christmas decorations. All kinds of jobs like that, retail or yeah, just low paying jobs where I could get. Uh, yeah.
And then you went to grad school.
No. Those were the jobs that I got that I was doing while in undergrad.
Okay.
Once I quit, oh sorry, once I finished grad school, I worked first for a poster restoration company where they restored antique posters, and then through there, I after that I worked for the company which I work at now that does fine art restoration. They fix fine art, old paintings mostly.
Oh, okay. So, how did you get that job? Did you
I
just
applied. Yeah,
you just applied?
I applied. Well, here's the story. I didn't go as direct. I applied to another job, and the guy told me, "I'm not going to hire you because we need somebody with more experience. But you should contact this other person in this other company." And I did. And I actually wrote them a letter. Like I printed, I typed it out, I printed it out, I signed it, and I mailed it. And they called me or told me to come by. This was pre-internet times, so it's like 2000, 2001.
So it was
So the
like
internet,
slow internet, like dial-up
low
internet.
internet, and yeah, you were better off looking at the classifieds in the back of the Village Voice if you wanted to get an art job.
Mm. Okay. So you worked at the place you work now, and then you went to art school, grad school.
Yes. Also, in the interim, I think I'm neglecting to tell you that I also work for an artist, and he had a whole group of people working for him, cranking out his paintings. He paid very little, but you can make your own hours, and all you had to do is paint things exactly like he told you in his own little weird style.
It wasn't a really famous painter that does big,
You
large
know,
sculptures.
he is infamous. His name is Mark Kostabi with a K.
Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with that artist, but I can look him up.
Among other, you know what he did? That will probably rattle your brain. He did the cover for "Use Your Illusion" 1 and 2 for Guns N' Roses.
They're not very good.
They're not. I didn't say he was good.
Yeah. I remember looking at those, and I keep thinking like it's not very creative. It's just like a blue and orange
Not only
background.
that, the figure that's in the background is a direct cut and paste from Raphael's School of Aristotle. The fresco
Yeah,
at the Sistine Chapel. Yeah,
that's funny. How
yeah,
creative. Well,
yeah.
yeah. Okay. So you got that job, and then you went to grad school. So as far as your art education, where do you think that you started to make what you would consider like big improvements, like big aha moments where it started to solidify what you would consider like, maturity either in drawing or painting or any of those things along those lines?
Okay, I would say in terms of my own personal practice and putting in the time, I got better at that once I graduated undergrad and um, starting to work for other people, doing jobs and having to paint every day for 8 hours a day. That helped tremendously, especially because I was scatterbrained. I didn't want to sit down. I would work for an hour or two and then go goofing off, doing whatever, and then coming back at the end of the day and trying to make up for lost time. So then I learned discipline basically by doing art jobs for other people. And then the other second most important thing that happened was going to grad school and learning how to think critically and how to just approach it differently, and to really start asking hard questions and to really work on the craft too, to start practicing and really developing a style or figuring out what it is that I want to say and how I want to say it.
Do you think
Now, it's very much a work in progress. I wouldn't say I have achieved that.
do you think though that it's just a time thing, or do you think that being at school, either school or both schools, afforded you some kind of direct exposure that like solidified what that meant?
Yes, it's everything. It's a little of both. It's a matter of putting in the time. It's a matter of, in my case, learning self-discipline, and also being exposed, seeing just rubbing elbows with people, especially other students, seeing what other people are doing, how they're doing it, what they're doing right, what they're not doing right, getting inspired, yeah, all of that.
Do you think that, like, can you think of one or two or something specific that, like, as far as techniques that you learned, say, later, that kind of was like a big moment?
Yeah, well, I would say learning to draw in a more classical academic manner, that I only even was exposed to that in grad school. That I have
Mm.
not seen that in undergrad. And just the rigidity of it, the structural solidity that it brings, just going through a series of step-by-step motions or process and achieving a very highly rendered, realistic style that some might consider stylized somewhat, but I had not tried my hand at before, and I think that elevated my game, especially my drawing. And your drawing needs to be solid in order, if you want to do representational painting, because I think I heard somebody say that like 90% of painting is drawing, basically. You're
So
just
that,
doing colors, wet paint.
well, so that being said, then what was your approach like before that? How did you draw?
I don't know. I think I relied a lot on outlines and silhouettes, and then once I got that done, I would just go in and try to render the shadows or give it volume, uh, which is it's very amateurish when I look back and I look at the drawings that I used to do, because it harkens back to my education or my background as a comic book artist, and it was also kind of very, very flat. I didn't really know how to turn the form. Not that I do it to the extent that some really good academic people do it, but I'm aware of it now.
Very cool.
The illusion of volume,
Yeah. Cool. So I want to ask you a little bit about what do you currently do for your job? Like, what is your official title or job assignment?
That's a good question. I don't know what my official title is. I know what I've been called at another company that I used to work that did basically the same thing that we do at my current company, and they used to call me a conservation technician. So a technician, I guess, could be appropriate. I restore artwork, and it's considered conservation. So, yeah.
So what does that mean when you say you restore artwork? Does that mean that you work on?
Okay, so picture this. I work for a very old company. It's been around for over 100 years. It's family owned. I think it's a total of 30 employees, maybe less. I work in a small department, which is the conservation department. There's about 5 of us, sometimes less, sometimes it's 4. And we restore, I would say 90% of the time is paintings, oil paintings. They come in different states of disrepair. Some of them are really, really in bad shape. They have holes. They have paint that's lifting, it's chipping, it's falling. They have discolored varnish. They're like, you look at them, you can barely discern what it is that you're looking at because they're all yellowed and brown. And we bring them back to life. We give them, we treat them structurally to fix whatever, if the paint is falling off or if they have holes or tears. We clean them. We take off the varnish if need be, and restore the original colors. And finally, we revarnish them, and we do what's called in-painting, which is basically color matching, taking a very small brush and dotting off the tears, the holes, the abrasions, whatever it might be.
And do you get any famous paintings you get to work on?
Yes, we get a lot of American illustrators, Rockwell, Leyendecker, N.C. Wyeth, Andrew Wyeth. We get, I've seen Winslow Homer, Edward Hopper, a lot of American painters, mostly. Marie Cassatt. We've had a few Monets. We had Van Goghs. I've seen Van Goghs. I've seen 3 of those, but nothing really super like recognizable. Like, we're not gonna get Starry Night, that those go to other people.
What about Sargent?
A lot of John Singer Sargent. I've seen a lot of that. Yeah, good stuff, Yeah.
What about what's his name? They just printed a book. I was looking to see if I had it. What's his name? He was an illustrator as well. Do you know they had that Kickstarter book for his work?
Oh, yes. What's his name? Ramon Casas? What's his name?
Oh, no, Dean Cornwell.
Oh, Dean Cornwell. No, I don't think we've gotten. We've gotten more, a lot of more Leyendecker, NC Leyendecker, but Cornwell not so much. I think maybe once or twice. One time we got this was a treat for me. Nobody else gave a damn. A Frazetta.
Oh yeah.
Painting. Little thing like that, but it was amazing.
Yeah, what do you think? Like, you get to handle these paintings. Is it you working on something by yourself, or does somebody do one part and then hands it off to somebody else, and then how does that work when it comes to restoration?
Okay, yes. First of all, you got to think it's a team. So certain specific people do certain jobs. There's a guy who specializes in the structural work. Structural meaning anything that has to do with the stretcher or the strainer or the panel, or sometimes he has to do what's called relining, which is adhering another piece of linen to the original one. So he handles all of that. Depending on the level of difficulty or the level of importance, my boss might take charge and do the job herself. I get a vote as to what I work on, but I don't get to decide ultimately.
Mm.
And yes, sometimes we do, a person does one job, then it moves on to the next job, to the other person, and then, so it's like a tag team type of thing. Also bear in mind, everything has a budget and a deadline, so we have to adhere to that.
Have you ever had a piece that couldn't be restored?
Yes, sometimes you have to turn down work. Usually that happens even before we get it. The work gets assessed,
Mm.
and they decide whether or not they can do it. And if they say that they can do it, then they relay that information to the client, and they give them options, and they tell them how much it's going to cost. And then that's a back and forward that happens, and then we proceed. Um, if we decide not to touch the artwork because it's too dangerous or too difficult, that usually happens in the very, very early stages. I might not even be privy to that.
Hmm.
Another thing that might happen is that artwork comes in, we look at it, we all evaluate it, we write a report, that gets handed back to the client, and then the client decides that it's too much and they can't afford it and they don't do it. But that's sad when that happens. Usually we turn down artworks that are on paper, because paper is incredibly difficult and unpredictable. So that, I would say, if we turn anything down, it's usually paper related.
That was going to be my next question, whether there was a medium that was maybe the least reliable, you know.
Yeah, paper. Paper is the wild pony. You never know how it's going to react. It's difficult to clean. Yeah, it's difficult to treat it so that what you're doing is reversible. Yeah, it's unpredictable. And there's people that specialize in it and they do it very well. So we usually just punt it over to them. There's, we would say, sorry, we can't do this, but here's this other company or this other conservator, contact them, or we put them in touch.
Now, you said reversible. Does that mean that everything that you had just mentioned, all of it has to be reversible for some reason?
Yes, that is the modern conservation practice demands, and this has been established after many, many years of people doing whatever the heck they wanted, that everything should be reversible, that the original artwork should not be altered. Because, if you use the wrong materials, you can permanently alter the piece forever. There's things that you can put on a painting that cannot be taken off, or in order to take them off, you would have to actually damage the original. So you just can't do that anymore, and it's rightly so. The original artwork should be respected, and there's been many, many problems and things that have been done in the past because there was no standard, there was no school of conservation, so it was kind of like a free for all. You didn't even need to have a degree to this kind of work. I'm talking about, this is fairly recent development. I mean, they basically started taking an interest in conservation and restoring artwork properly after World War II.
So yeah, it is pretty recent. Do you know of any like famous pieces that have been ruined, so to speak, by either amateur restorers or by expert restorers because they weren't following protocols?
Yes, there was one instance of a Caravaggio that they found at a monastery in Ireland, I think it was. And it was an Italian restorer who somehow ended up thinking that he could restore it. And in the process of restoring it, he somehow, I think he managed to contract or have the canvas itself shrink, which caused the paint to crack and lift like that.
Wow.
Because it all kind of, so that was a big disaster. That's one of them. And there's been many, many others. Some people think that the cleaning of the Sistine Chapel was a tragedy. they really went too far, and they over cleaned it, and they ruined, and they changed what the Michelangelo vision was. You know?
What do you think? Do you believe that?
No, I don't subscribe to that. I think in the Renaissance they tended to use a lot more vibrant and uh, almost garish colors than we're used to. We have this preconceived notion because we grew up looking at these things being all yellowed and amber, you know, and they're really not. That's just the passage of time and what happens with especially with varnish. But they weren't meant to be like that.
And specifically with the Sistine Chapel, they were still holding services, so there was a layer of soot from all the
Yes.
candle use. And so, what I remember from my art history days is that originally Michelangelo was kind of put in the same category as Leonardo, as being a form painter. And then when it was cleaned, it was sort of confirmed that the school of thought was called disegno e colore, which is like line and color, which is a little bit more illustrative. So um,
Yes.
there's also another case. I don't know if you remember this one about a painting of Christ. It was Ecce Homo. And then this woman took it upon herself to restore the painting and botched it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that happened in Spain a few years ago, and it was on a small church. And yeah, I think she was upset that nobody was doing anything about it, and she ended up painting over it and created a Muppet version of it.
But do you remember if it was a fresco or an oil painting?
Oh yeah, I know. I think it was a fresco. Yeah, you're right. But what the lady used was completely wrong. I think she used acrylics. I'm not sure. They had to remove it. They had to very carefully fix it.
Oh, they did. Did they fix it?
I think they did. I'm sure we can look it up on the internet. I think they did. I'm not sure.
I was just pulling it up
Yeah.
right now, and the joke was, Ecce Homo means behold man, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it became este mono or Ecce Mono because
Yeah.
because it looked
That's
like a monkey.
yeah. Yeah.
um,
Well, also like there's no you wouldn't know this because they're not very famous pieces, but we see this all the time. We get paintings that have been restored with oil painting, and oil painting after after say more than 5 or 10 years, it hardens so much it's like a rock. And in order to remove it, you have to like either use super strong like paint remover, or you have to scrape it, or you have to use acetone, scrape it with a scalpel. So we see that a lot too. Cases in which a painting was restored or corrected with oil paint.
you guys don't use oil paint then?
We use MSA acrylics, which are mineral spirits acrylics.
Huh. Why are they different than regular acrylics?
They I think they dry faster. They're more light fast. They maintain their they don't change colors from when they're wet to when they are dry, and so therefore they're more archival. They won't change colors also over time, and they can be removed. All you need to do is wipe it with a little naphtha or xylene, and they come right off.
How come that's not readily available to work as a medium?
Because they come in very small containers. They have a lot of pigment, and they dry very very fast, and they're just good to do small repairs. Like we
Oh,
use 000 brushes, and I don't know. I don't think it's suitable for artists to like. You wouldn't be able to paint a big painting with that. You know?
I see. Cool. I want to ask you a little bit about your studio. So you're living in Brooklyn and you're working where? In your apartment?
Right. I work where I live in the basement. There's a cubicle that I rent, and I had to do a lot of work to fix it up. It looked like crap before. There was old furniture that had to be removed, just like piles of crap, dust everywhere that had to be swept and vacuumed. The walls were not white. I had to paint that. I even painted the floors, and I had to install lighting too, because it was very, very dark. There's natural light, but it's very, very faint, and it comes from a little window that's far away. So I basically don't have natural light. And I had to install some shelves too. And I had to extend the electricity. I had to bring in the electricity from an outlet that it's far away, and just kind of like basically screw an extension cord onto the ceiling and bring it over.
How big would you say your space is?
Right now, it's kind of tiny. It's let's measure. Let's see. But it's suitable. 7 feet by 8 feet. Plus, there's a little room back here.
Is it
It's like a big closet.
is it about the same size, the other little area?
Yeah, I have 2 little areas. The other one is about the same size. The problem is that there's even less space there because I have the flat file cabinets.
So, you said you had to put up some shelves, you had to bring in lighting. When do you find it most convenient to work? Are you a morning person? Do you do it in the midday? Do you do it in the evening?
Well, I have a young son. He's 19 months now. So basically, I'm busy with him because of the quarantine. So the evenings are the best time right now.
Evenings.
I wish I had the stamina to wake up early, but that would mean to wake up. I mean, he wakes up at 5 or 6 a.m. almost every day. So I would have to wake up at 4 in order to put in some hours before he woke up. The evenings are easier, and then I get down here usually around 7 p.m. and I work till about 9 or 10, which is not great. I wish I had more stamina to work till like midnight or whatever. But I find that I get too tired and I start making mistakes.
And what are you currently working on? Like, do you have a project you're going on right now?
I'm finishing up a project, which is a personal project, which is a series of learning blocks. They're wooden blocks that I painted with the alphabet and the numbers 1 through 10. And they're done in circus font with a lot of colors. And I've also included Looney Tune characters. And they were done in acrylic. And then I did the outline with enamel paint, sign painter's paint. And now I'm actually, just this morning I was starting to varnish them. I used matte medium, and then next I'm gonna use some acrylic polyurethane type of thing.
So, okay. So let's say you're going to go down, you got some spare time to work. Do you have a specific like ritual? Oh yeah, cool. What's on the other side? How many sides do you have?
This one's not finished.
Okay. Ah, okay.
Yeah, so all of these were varnished this morning, and they're dry now, but you get the idea. Oops. See? Numbers and letters, different styles, but they're all kind of circus font and Looney Tunes characters. And it's just maple wood. They're not very heavy. They're not also very, very hard, which I'm a little bit worried that once Mateo starts playing with them, they're going to get it all nicked and chipped and stuff, but oh well. That's what's gonna happen.
Right. What's that little inscription down at the bottom?
I signed it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Those are really good. They turned out really well. Did you freehand them all?
Yes, I did. I mean, I got all the reference from the internet, but it's all hand drawn. Yeah. The letters and the numbers I hand drew on a piece of paper prior, and then I transferred them on. With the cartoons, I just started drawing directly on the blocks. It turned out okay.
Yeah, they look good.
Thank you. Believe me, I've learned also that I'm not a good sign painter. It's hard to control that enamel stuff. Jeez, those lines. So if you want, I can send you like still pictures of this, so you can include them. Maybe that'd be easier to see.
Yeah, right now it works pretty good. Yeah, I'll put them in as well.
All right.
Cool. Those are great.
Thank you. You would not believe how long I worked on these. It's been a passion project, but it's almost like ridiculous that I spend this amount of time. It's nobody's gonna see it other than my family, but hopefully they will stay with us for a long time, and Mateo will play with them, and someday we'll give them to his children. I don't know. We'll see how long they last.
Mm-hmm.
The idea was that we want to encourage him to speak because he hasn't said any words yet. So it's like a visual aid type of thing.
Oh, great.
I don't know if what else I should have whoa. I should have included other things other than cartoons, but I couldn't think of anything. I thought this would be fun.
I think those are great. Yeah.
Thank you. I've been working on this since August. So how many months is that? I don't know. Many months, at least 5, I think. And but the thing is, I don't work on them every day. It's like I put in an hour or two every once in a while. We went to Argentina for 2 weeks. I didn't get to work on them, so. Okay, so I'm gonna keep moving. This is a little nook in the studio that's separate from other things. That's a little art cart. I love this thing because you can move it around, and I have all my my paints underneath and pencils and utensils over here. I installed these shelves up here. Over here, you have a little panel thingy. It's like a cork board that has some fabric over it, and I use it to put up inspiration, whatever. These are stills from the movie 101 Dalmatians. Anyways, then you see there's my desk, which is flat at the moment, but I could tilt it if I wanted to use it as a drafting table. I like these narrow shelves because you can just a few inches wide. I think they're 4 inches or so. You just put little things on them. You don't need deep shelves. I have this musical stand that I bought a few years ago, and it's pretty good for holding reference material. It's kind of flimsy and it moves a lot. It wiggles a lot, but if you're not touching it, you can put like a board and use it to put your reference material. Even my iPad I put on there sometimes. These I had to install. This is what I was talking about with the electrical outlets and stuff that I had to bring over. There was no outlets in this room. More brushes and things. These are acrylic paints. These I've had probably, I kid you not, for 10 years, and they're still wet. They're still viable, and I can use them. It's crazy.
What brand are they?
Brushes. These are Teveo, PBO.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a French brand. It's pretty good. Yeah. Brushes, all kinds of stuff. Some medium rubber cement. This is masking fluid. There's another panel. There's some pallets over there. Some tape. I keep this fan going all the time just to keep the air moving, you know. I'm not using anything terribly noxious right now, but when I was using the enamel, it kind of made me a little dizzy. And there's the entrance to the so mind you, I had to paint everything. That was a stone wall over there. I had to paint that. It was filthy dirty. I had to paint the floor. I had to paint this wooden slabs also. Everything was dirty, and I used white paint, but it created a kind of grayish color when it mixed with the dirt. And it's great because I didn't want perfectly white paint on the wall. Anyways, this is the one room that I started with, and then I realized that I needed a second room to work in. This is where I keep the artwork. They're the flat file cabinets that they, believe it or not, they were throwing away at work, and I was like, I'll take those. And that's a bunch of old paintings, some books. There's a print a friend of mine gave me. I use this when I ride my bicycle in bad weather. And I also like to keep like tools and things just to do little projects. Everything pretty organized, sort of. I got to do a better job. Like I'm gonna hang this better. I have to fix this. This is temporary. I want to display the tapes in a. I have a friend who did a wall of tape, and he did all these pegs, and each tape has a peg that they can hang on. So you see they're easily they're easy to find, you know. Anyways, so yeah, this is it. And yeah, that's the basement. Yeah. I'm gonna go back to the other room now.
So,
But one of the problems is like I don't have a lot of room for an easel. So there's my easel. So I thought to myself, I'm gonna use even smaller easel. I have these metal easel that is a tripod basically, and so I'm gonna use that because there's not a lot of room in here. You see, so I gotta. It's either that or hang stuff on the wall. And there's the lights. There's the lights. All of these lights I had to install. That one over here, I got from Amazon. It's LED. It's super bright, and there was a set of 4 for $50. It's like amazing, and they're super light.
all right. So, thank you. That was great. So when you're working, say you work whenever you can, but mostly the evenings, how important is it for you to have music or silence?
I prefer to have something in the background, even if I'm not actively listening to it. It calms me down. Silence, sometimes, but not always. If I don't want to be distracted, what I'll do is I'll play music that has no lyrics. It could be classical music. It could be jazz. It could be techno, minimal type of music with no lyrics, and I find that that carries me through for hours. I can just put that on and forget about it, and it keeps me happy, and I can think without being distracted. Music with lyrics distracts me. Having said that, sometimes I always also want to listen to somebody speak, so I will listen to a podcast. But the problem with podcasts is that you have to pay attention to the podcast. I find that it's a little taxing to do what I'm doing and at the same time follow the story. It depends on what kind of task I'm doing at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Short term, I guess, would be to continue to make the studio just so that it's more accessible and comfortable and easy to get to. I hate to have to like come downstairs and start prepping a million things before I can actually start working. Everything needs to be set up and streamlined and ready to go. So I don't have to move furniture or prepare things. I hate that because that's yet another obstacle, another deterrent to not start the work. So that would be short term. I want to have it perfect. I have the lighting set up. I have the walls painted, the shelves. Now I got to figure out a little bit of how to manage the space a little bit better, how to make more room. And I have a list of projects. Sometimes I write down things so I don't forget things that I want to do in the future. So if I come down here, I'm like, I don't know what to do today. I'm so unmotivated. I look at the list. Okay, just pick one and just fucking do it. That would be short term. Long term, I want to develop a body of work. I want to really do something that at least 12 pieces that have one common unifying theme. I don't really have that yet, so it's something I'm working on.
So the point of this podcast is really kind of to give people some insight to, the fact that artists come in many different forms and shapes.
Yes.
And we're not all represented by huge galleries, and a lot of us have day jobs. And what kind of advice would you give to somebody who is thinking about, maybe I could be an artist, but I don't have a studio? What does it mean? Maybe, in order to be an artist, you have to have this or that. Do you have any advice for, say like, maybe you thought those things when you were younger? Maybe not. Yeah.
I would say approach it from a can-do place, from a positive place. Don't try to get bogged down with I don't have this, I don't have that, I need this, I need that. Anything can do it. If you have a corner in your apartment or in your room, it starts simple. It start basic, but get to it. The most important part is that you do the work. It will get easier over time. It can be difficult and frustrating in the beginning. If you have doubts, if you don't know how to proceed, reach out to other people. Look on YouTube these days, this day and age. You can look on YouTube and get a wealth of information. There's so many videos out there, or the internet. We didn't have that when we started out. You had to either go to the library and read a book or buy it. There was no internet, so we didn't have that information. Just do the work, and don't try not to second guess yourself, and get going. And if you can, keep your overhead low. If you're a college student or you're a recent graduate, move to a town where you can afford the rent. Don't be stupid like me. Don't stay in New York, and concentrate on doing the work. And it requires a lot of discipline, and it might require not hanging out so much, not going out so much, but if you are serious about art, I'm sure you have it in you to be committed and to persevere.
Last thing, how has the quarantine impacted your work life and your art life? Has it been good? Has it been bad? A little of both?
It's been a little bit of both. It's not terrible. My day job has completely stopped. We're not allowed to go to work. They slashed my salary, but now they kind of reinstated it back thanks to that government loan they received. So that's hurt me financially. Um, in terms of my own artwork, it's actually given me more time to work. I'm less tired because I don't have to go to a day job. I mean, I take care of my son all day because my partner Kristen is working from home, so I have to watch him. But at least I'm not as tired as I'm usually am when I work a full day at work on my day job. So I have benefited from that.
Cool. Thank you, man.